Hey guys, what's up? It is Mossy from PGA here to make yet another video on the LCS. This is going to be our first video in regards to the LCS Summer Split playoffs. Obviously, we have our first round of games here, and everything is super exciting. Currently, on Saturday, we're going to be having EG playing Dignitas, and then Cloud9 playing Team Liquid, so those are going to be the matchups for this weekend. I did kind of want to talk about these teams a little bit. I wanted to look at records, and as you guys can see here, I have the VOD of the Dignitas game that happened last weekend, obviously against TSM. And really interesting stuff here. There's like so much stuff to talk about, but we can go ahead. So going into this first matchup now, EG and Dignitas are really two teams who are eyeing each other throughout the entirety of this last LCS spring and summer split. And honestly, towards the back end of it, things really fell off. Like the wheels fell off the wagon, so to speak, for Dignitas. But honestly, I was relatively impressed with a few of their players, most notably Acadian. I think Acadian came into a very hard situation following Dardoch's swift exit from the organization, and Acadian has some games where he's looked phenomenal. I know he was voted player of the game quite a few times, actually 6 times, which would put him in the tied for third with Blabber. So Acadian, I think he had a hell of a summer split, and really he was like one of the shining, examples of players I think to look up to for the rest of the roster on Dignitas. And you look at a team like Evil Geniuses, who kind of had like the exact opposite thing happen. Like Dignitas overperformed in the spring split, and then kind of underperformed in summer, had a lot of team issues. It felt like it was the other way around for EG. Given the amount of talent on EG's roster, I think people expected them to do a little bit better. Spring split didn't quite go their way. A lot of looked like team communication issues, maybe coordination issues. Jizuke looked unstable, to say the least. All of a sudden you look at their summer split record, and they went 18-9, which is the exact same record that TSM and 100 Thieves both had. Obviously, you carry your record now. So EG ended in 3rd place. I think tied actually with Cloud9, but winning out on the tiebreaker. But like their overall record was 28 wins and 17 losses throughout both splits, which still very respectable. A 3rd place team that, given their recent performance, should probably be looked at as potentially like a top 1, top 2 team, depending on how they're looking on the day. I think that there are still some consistency issues to be looked at in terms of this EG roster. I don't think that everything is completely solved yet, but EG looks good. And Dignitas, honestly, like if they hadn't snagged this win against TSM, this would very likely be a one and done, very easy to understand. Like, yeah, I think EG just rolled this. However, Dignitas are showing signs of life. What this matchup is really going to come down to is how does what kind of draft advantages are you able to have on both of these teams? Because when you get into BO3s and the meta stuff gets banned out, and then maybe some things are going to have to be let in, like you have to, like there are these champions that you're going to have to deal with. And I think for Dignitas, it's going to be like you have to ban out some of Jizuke's stuff. And so what are you going to end up giving him? He has plenty of these. I mean, like his Rise is probably one of his most notable champs. I know he plays a strong Tristana, a strong Lucian. I mean, most of the meta mids he can play just extremely well. But he does have like those off-meta picks like the Rise, as I mentioned before. There are a few others that you really have to watch out for picks like that. And if Jizuke starts taking bans, away from Dignitas basically, and just forcing them to ban certain things, and this series will be 100% over. I think if you look at Yasui for Dignitas in the mid lane, he looked okay this season, or this split, I should say. I'll be honest, the decline of Dignitas as a team, happened with obviously the exit of Dardoch, but all that really happened when Yasui got subbed in originally. Now, I remember Dignitas a while back saying that their intent was to sub the original mid laner for Dignitas back in, I'm blanking on his name, hold on. I believe they said that they were intending on subbing Saligo back in, and Saligo is obviously down in Academy right now, but I'm not sure that that will be even better. You know, if you do make that decision, then like I feel like you're completely griefing your team, because Yasui right now has all of this experience on stage and with the team, and you know, maybe Saligo's been scrimming with them or something, but I think it's just too late to make that change now. I think you have to roll with the roster that you got, and you have to play to your strengths. You know, one of the other performers on this Dignitas roster is Neo, and I think that you need to help, like, whatever you're drafting, like, Neo needs to be able to, like, take control of the game. And if that can't happen, like, Acadian and Neo basically need to ball out. Aframu obviously very solid as well, and the solo lanes just need to stabilize, which could be the hardest part, you know, especially when you look at Evil Geniuses. You look at Impact, who is actually having a pretty fantastic season. You know, he's a player that you wouldn't expect EG to be getting all this value out of, but he's been balling out. You know, I think if you look at the quality of players, EG should win this matchup every single time, just on paper. Especially with, you know, the bot laner Danny. I know he's been getting a little bit of hype. Definitely had a decent season. So all positives, I think, for the most part for EG. If I had to, you know, take a guess on what this matchup is, I think, you know, in the best of 5, I could see this being even like a 3-1, 3-2 at worst for, you know, going in the favor of EG. Moving on to the other matchup, though, Cloud9 Team Liquid. I think this is much anticipated, and both of these teams with the exact same record in the summer split, 15-12. Obviously, Cloud9 with that one win over. I mean, the records are so similar: 28-17 to 27-18. Very funny stuff. Cloud9 obviously with the slightly better record there throughout the entirety of the LCS season so far. Cloud9. Honestly, really kind of weird stuff from them. I think not exactly what we may have been expecting. You know, at the start of the season, they announced, like, they pick up perks, they spend all this money. You know, obviously, like, we all thought this was going to be the dream team, and somehow, in spectacular fashion, Cloud9 doing the thing where they have all these amazing pieces, and then problems happen. Sven was, you know, not playing for a majority of the split, or maybe not a majority, but certainly a long portion of time. And honestly, you look at Fudge, who before was taking all of this slack, you know, about being the worst part of this roster. And Fudge has actually developed into, I think, probably the best top laner in the entire LCS. I know there's a lot of hype around him right now. But when you were looking at this team and some of the more difficult wins that they picked up recently, it feels like it's always off the back of, like, this consistent play from Fudge. You know, Blabber still playing decently well. I think the bot lane's looking more or less consistent, and honestly right now I think the player who's probably performing the worst right now on C9 in general is Perks, which is interesting. It makes you wonder if maybe his Perks lost his form. Is he no longer gonna, you know, has he come to NA to retire, basically? And with the amount that he got paid, you know, you have to speculate a little bit. I do think that Perks is going to be hopefully back in shape for playoffs. You know, and you look at the other teams that they're playing against. You got Team Liquid. Team Liquid is back with their, you know, main roster. You've got Santorin back in the jungle. You've got Alfari, and things are starting to kind of get pieced together. I want to say I don't want to be too optimistic, but I do think that, like, now that TL have actually had the opportunity to kind of play for a few weeks, you know, with their, what's the way to put it, with their main roster, I think things are starting to gel a lot better. I think Tactical Core DJ looking good as always. I really, throughout this playoffs, like, if they are going to beat C9, Jensen needs to be impacting the game a lot more, I think. I have not been impressed with the level of play from Jensen. I think I wasn't impressed last year in playoffs, and I haven't been impressed this year. I don't know what's going on with Jensen. Maybe he should, well, I don't want to say that quite yet, but if this playoffs goes really poorly and next year doesn't go well, then Jensen should probably start thinking about retirement. He is 26. You know, he's a stable mid laner. I don't think he's, like, the worst player at all, but, like, Jensen used to be, you know, one of the biggest names in the LCS, and you look at all the mid laners nowadays, and Jensen's name doesn't even feel like it's in the conversation. I think that this playoffs is an excellent opportunity for him to kind of reclaim his throne, so to speak, and especially, I mean, when Bjergsen left the LCS, everyone's like looking at Jensen because that was always, you know, a big part of the rivalry in the past was Jensen and Bjergsen and like these EU mid laners, and you know, there's just more and more better mid laners coming up. So Jensen needs to step up his level of play. I think other things to play off of for TL, you know, Santorin looks like he might be coming back into form, so Santorin needs to be, you know, facilitating and making plays. And then obviously you have Alfari who honestly hasn't looked the greatest of all time. Like, I don't think you've gotten all the value that you wanted out of him as a player, but this is where it's time for him to step up as well. It is playoffs, so it's time to win and it's time to make it count. If I had to give my best guess for this series, based off of prior records, based off of head-to-head records, I think Cloud9 are going to actually end up taking this. I would be pretty shocked, I think, if Cloud9 were not able to take this series. You know, they went 3-2 against Team Liquid in the regular season, and Cloud9 in general, I think, look a little more stable right now. There's a lot of unknowns with Team Liquid, but I could totally be proven wrong. Anyways, guys, that is all that I have for you today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys watch the upcoming games. Make sure you guys tune in for the games Saturday, Sunday, and just keep coming back to the channel. We'll put out, you know, continue to put out LCS content. Really excited to see who the World's reps for NA are going to be this year, and I hope you guys are as well. We could have a chance at Worlds this year, you guys. I really think so. Just joking. Catch you guys on the next one.